Hey, everyone, and welcome to another episode of This Week in Crypto Philanthropy. Nick Mikhalevsky, Senior Sales Manager here at The Giving Block. Great to be back from the summer. Pietro, great to be back with you. I know I missed the last one, so I'm really glad to be back on these. Pietro, how's everything going? How's the week started for you?
Week's going great. Long weekend allows for, rest, recovery, and getting back in the swing of things. But yeah, doing really well. We missed you on the last episode. It was super fun. We had a great conversation and a little outnumbered. We had a lot of fantastic guests on the episode, and highly recommend anybody check that out. But we have our fearless leader back, ladies and gentlemen. Nick is here, and we have another great episode lined up today, which I think we're both super excited about. Nick, what do we have on offer today? Let the people know.
Yeah, so we're really excited to bring on another great guest. We love doing these guest episodes. If anybody's listening to this that has, works at a great nonprofit, has a great mission, would like to come on and perhaps join us on an episode, we'll make sure to put a link in that show note. But today, very excited to be welcomed by Chris LaBianco, who's the executive director of the Cabrini Mission Foundation. I'm going to actually read off a little bit of this intro. And so, Chris, as you're coming onto the screen, I want to sort of, make sure I get all this right. But you are the executive director of the Cabrini Mission Foundation in New York. Chris has led the organization for about the past 8 years and was first connected with missionary sisters at Cabrini Medical Center and has since built a career in the nonprofit sector. And prior to this, had roles at the American Red Cross, East West Institute, and USA Swimming Foundation. And under his leadership, the foundation continues to advance the legacy of Mother Cabrini and the missionary sisters, focusing on education, healthcare, immigration, and social justice. And some really cool stats here. While the foundation itself is 26 years old, it honors the 146 years of the missionary sisters' work and the work of Mother Cabrini, which this would be her 175th birthday this year. So, Chris, welcome to the show. I hope I got all of that correct. So glad that you're here.
Gentlemen, thank you for having me on. That is a mouthful. And, my career doesn't seem that long, but after you read that, I'm a little concerned.
Well, Chris, I guess maybe a good starting point, for this whole conversation is just, where the starting point actually was, how you got into this space, for lack of a better term, and how did you find your way to Cabrini?
Sure. Happy to kick off your fall season with a little background. Early on, I felt the call to service to give back. I didn't necessarily know which direction it was going to take me, but one of the first paths I discovered was public policy. So, as a recent college grad, I moved down to Washington, D.C., and found myself as Senate and congressional staffer working on legislation and running around Capitol Hill trying to make the world a better place. Really the first thing it taught me was the importance of fundraising. So I learned the hard and fast, the importance to the elected process, to be able to fundraise and ask folks for money and not always give them what they're asking for when you ask them for money. As a result of that, it also introduced me really to the nonprofit sector. Ultimately, a career in politics wasn't for me, but one in nonprofit world has suited me pretty well. So that's really where it all started. As you mentioned, I started my relationship with the missionary sisters, as this is scary, almost 20 years ago. I was doing a fundraising campaign at Cabrini Medical Center, which is essentially right across from the office I sit in today. Unfortunately, the hospital's gone, but that interaction really, left an indelible mark on me. The interactions with the sisters and the work they do, the legacy of Mother Cabrini. 8 years ago, I got a phone call. One of the sisters was looking for me, which made me particularly nervous. You don't want Catholic sisters trying to track you down. But in this case, it was an opportunity to come back and run the Cabrini Mission Foundation. And that really brings us up to where we are today.
I can attest, as someone who went to Catholic school, you definitely don't want Catholic sisters chasing you around because that means you probably did something wrong. However, I think you were probably chased down for the right reason, especially with those accolades. It's like you learn all those great skills on the hill and then go apply them in practice somewhere, which it sounds like you've done to immense effect. Wanted to loop back a little bit to one of Nick's points in the preamble, which is like talking about some of these stats. So it marks 175 years for Mother Cabrini herself in terms of birthdays, 146 years since she founded the Missionary Sisters, and 26 of Cabrini Mission Foundation. I'm curious, you said you have now 20 years under your belt as well. What does this milestone moment mean for you, maybe personally, and then also for the foundation, like reflecting on this rich legacy? I'm also a New Yorker, so you're no strangers to me, but for the audience maybe tuning in for the first time or just hearing about you guys, how do you reflect back on this sort of illustrious career, and what does it mean to you?
Sure. Growing up going to church on Sundays, one of the things I struggled with sometimes was the whole community of saints. And were these actual people or these like fictional characters in a book? And sometimes it was easier to discern than others. When I got first sort of introduced to Mother Cabrini, again, someone I had heard of Mother Cabrini most of my life, and maybe it was like a punchline in a movie, but it was like this was a real person, right? And it was fascinating how quickly you could wrap your arms just around that personal legacy. She's been gone. She died in 1917, so she's been gone for over 100 years. Yet you could still walk in her footsteps. Here in New York, around the globe, in New Orleans and Denver, all these different places that she traveled and all these different missions that she opened. So for me, it's kind of fun to celebrate a saint's birthday because I think it helps humanize them. I think it helps it. We all celebrate birthdays. We all either fear them or enjoy them, so we can all recognize what a birthday is. So to be able to say that this remarkable individual turned 175 this year, and there are still people interested in celebrating that with us and buying virtual candles and doing some online fundraising with us, it's a lot of fun, and I think it helps keep her relevant. In terms of her rich legacy, I mean, you're talking about a woman who lived for 67 years, founded an institution at 30 years old, and 146 years later, it's still going strong. There are missionary sisters in 17 countries around the globe, still carrying forward her legacy, her mission, her work, her charism. And it's remarkable that all started in a small town in Codogno, Italy, and we're still carrying that forward. As for the foundation, we've been around for 26 years. I don't know if that's necessarily remarkable. I think that's more just a designation with the IRS to prove that we have the appropriate tax status. But I think it also speaks to those other anniversaries to just say, we're sort of in the infancy state of the Cabrini story. But ultimately, our goal, if we do our jobs right, is to carry that on in perpetuity, right? So, as I sit here today and we have this conversation, who knows? Maybe 100 years from now, there'll be another future Cabrini Mission Foundation director who will be celebrating, the 125th anniversary of the foundation or whatever number it is. So I think that's what it says to me.
Yeah, and I guess for anybody who that name may sort of jog, in your mind. There was I think it's fine to say, a major motion picture that came out last year. So if anybody sort of the Cabrini name is starting to ring some bells there, certainly worth checking out. And I guess, as this institution's evolved and moved into kind of like the modern age, let's shift gears a little bit. You talk about like the foundation's been around for 20 some odd years. How's the mission sort of moved into sort of the modern sort of fundraising aspect, and how did we even get on sort of like our same radars here? How did that evolve, and where did it even come from? Because moving into something as sort of modern as like crypto fundraising, would love to just sort of know the genesis story of that.
Sure. So, faith-based institutions, Catholic institutions can be pretty slow to transition. Again, if we're talking about dates, we're a ship that's been moving in one direction for, almost 150 years. So, we're not always fast to implement new things. one of my early bosses, a mentor who's now a good friend of mine, gave me the advice, if you're going to hire people, always hire people that are smarter than you. And, if you do that consistently, you'll continue to move forward and make headway even in a space that you're uncomfortable. I think that's our story too. When I first arrived here 8 years ago, yeah, there was still some direct mail going on. There were still some mail merges. We were still stuffing some envelopes. It was pretty daunting. Getting the old Seinfeld envelope glue on your mouth while you're trying to seal those things and get them out. But the truth is, like, those days have since passed. We've tried to modernize. We've tried to take on social media. We've tried to find new ways to communicate with our donors. And certainly one of those areas, and again, I'm not a crypto expert, is this whole notion of there's a community of people out there who are crypto philanthropists. And maybe some of them are Catholic. Maybe some of them are interested in the work that Mother Cabrini has put out in the world and is trying to lead on. And so that's really where we are. That conversation led to us finding some smarter people than we were that introduced us to the giving block and kind of opened us to the technology and the capability to accept crypto donations from philanthropists. And it's been eye-opening. It's a great icebreaker when you can tell people, sure, you can collect change, but you can also send me a Bitcoin that's worth $70,000. And, those kind of donations, make it add up quickly and make a huge impact.
I want to touch base on something you mentioned, which, I think from personal experience, maybe I've noticed, having passed the hat around on Sundays as a kid in particular, but like you mentioned, the faith-based nonprofit kind of cohort can be a little bit slower, but you seem to have taken on maybe a more advanced adoption of this technology. And you said you've found this community of crypto philanthropists and donors. If you could speak to folks who are maybe on the fence of maybe not having dipped their toes in the crypto pool yet, or found those communities of folks quite yet, like what has your experience been with those individuals? I mean, we see a lot of these stories, not only on the podcast, but in our kind of daily work and working 24/7 in crypto. But like, as somebody who, took the plunge, now that we're kind of into this journey together, how has that been, going for y'all? And could you speak to maybe anything that's maybe different about crypto donors or just your experience generally?
So, I think what's really opened up my eyes is there were some traditional donors that had crypto investments, right? But had no idea that we would ever sort of engage them in that category, right? So there was maybe somebody who would give X amount at this time of year or Y amount at a different time of year for an event. And then suddenly, we would get these great responses like, wait, you guys take crypto? Like, do you take this? Do you take that? And again, thankfully, I relied on the team at the Giving Block for some of the appropriate language to communicate, because it is a little different. There's a lot of terms out there. But I think the reaction has been really positive. It also brought in some new folks to the door. Again, you open up the program, you open up your bank statement, and suddenly there's some gifts in there, and things have been translated from a cryptocurrency into cash, and now it's real money. So, that's pretty remarkable. I will say one of the things that can be challenging if you're sort of a traditional fundraising guy is there is anonymity. A lot of people will say, I'm making an anonymous gift, and then they mail you a check that's got their name and address,
Right.
and phone number and like social security number in the top left-hand corner, right? Or they go online to make a donation, and the system basically automatically collects, their everything, right? They're, including the security code on their credit card, right? So like all of that is magically stored somewhere in the interweb. So the fact that you can get a donation from somebody that turns into $1,000 or $5,000, and you really have no way of reconnecting with that person other than through social media to announce the gift, to thank them, and to encourage them to give more. And I will admit, some of the gifts can be strange. There's like coins that are related to cats or household pets, and you're like, wait, we like The cat people sent us $1,500. That's awesome. So you just kind of celebrate and go with it. And yeah, on some of the social media stuff, when we thanked the cat folks, I don't know, Mother Cabrini may have rolled over to see kind of like our logo and like a cat with a crypto coin in its mouth. But it's fun. You kind of roll with it, and there's been nothing. Most importantly, there's been no negative feedback. Even for people who maybe I would have felt were concerned about the direction we were going. They've all been very supportive, and it also helps when you add a few commas in your bank account.
Well, that's great. I mean, that's the nice part of the crypto community is it sounds like you're getting sort of the full spectrum. You're getting some of the the crypto community that can be a little more colorful, and then those like everyday maybe like folks in the over 60 crowd that have rotated some of their portfolio into digital assets, and we tell folks, I mean, it's it's surprising where all of this, can come from once. I think you mentioned it yourself before we got on the call, like in education. Just such a good way to just let people know that this is even an option, because you can kind of be surprised where some of the support can come from and the new doors that it opens up. And some new relationships that are made. So that's really great that you're getting kind of the full crypto experience.
Yeah, again, I think you just touched on it. I want to, as a guy who runs a foundation and who asks for money on a daily basis, I want to make, sort of people's getting to yes as easy as possible. So whatever barriers those may be, I want to tear them down. And, I didn't even know that was a barrier, the whole concept of crypto. And then I realized it was, we weren't open to it. And so now we are. So we're excited about it.
Yeah. Well, and I guess maybe as a quick aside, you've got a gala coming up in a couple weeks, and hopefully you make some new relationships there at the gala. Hope you guys have a QR code that goes to that page, so those folks can pull out their iPhones and start donating some crypto. So yeah, how's the planning going?
So the big event is September 19th. I know a lot of again, it's fun to kind of talk about traditional versus more cutting edge fundraising. Galas are as old school as they come. Everybody has their old rubber chicken dinner experience. We try to make ours anything but that. Ours is a highly scripted, produced, sort of like television ready TV award show. We live stream it. We have simultaneous interpretation in English and Spanish, so we can sort of appeal to a broad audience. So we're doing those things technology-wise. And then, as you brought up, recently we added the ability to give cryptocurrency. So, at a certain point, there is the traditional sort of fundraising ask, the paddle raise. We often have a missionary sister get up and make the ask because it's hard to tell a sister no. A pretty standard approach in faith-based fundraising. Nobody wants to hear from me, but if I bring the sisters together, they're going to have a hard time closing the door in our face. So we'll get a sister up there, and she will talk about what we've been doing and what the ask is. Thanks to the Giving Block, we do have a QR code that we put up so people can do direct donations that way through crypto. Through the Giving Block, we've also been introduced to another organization called Give Lively, and they've got some tools we'll implement this year for the first time. So we'll have some text to donate. We'll have a thermometer up there so people can see their names in real time as they make a gift. Implementing the new stuff can make you a little nervous because I don't want the production to come to a screeching halt, but I'm excited about that and see where it goes. The other thing that I think is great about galas, and it's the one reason why I still promote it the way I do, it's sort of the one time of the year that we still manage to sort of get people to dress up and come together as like the Cabrini family, like the greater Cabrini community. And it's just unique. In some ways, it's a reunion. People haven't seen each other. It's a way to connect with the missionary sisters. I've got people that the sisters taught when they were in elementary school, and now they're in their 80s, and they're going to fly in from California to be with us in New York, just to sort of be part of that special evening, that special day. This year's going to be unique. His Eminence, Cardinal Timothy Dolan, is a special guest for us, one of our honorees, and I think everybody's excited to hear what he has to say, especially coming out of the conclave and the election of our first American-born Pope. So I think it's timely. So we're excited about it.
It sounds like it's going to be an incredible event. We might have to start stealing a few of your pieces of playbook and start simulcasting, Nick, here for the weekly show. But no, you're lending a lot of creative ideas here. And it's exciting to hear that these events are also fun and just an unbelievable reunion, like you mentioned, of communion of folks that maybe don't get the chance to see each other all the time. It's something you don't get on the internet, at least in the same way. And that's, very true of the digital format that we have in Crypto Philanthropy. But it's really nice to balance that with something a little more traditional and give yourself that excuse to dress up and look good and have fun. So really excited to tune in and see how the event goes coming up here. I did want to take a quick pivot to talk about the work that you do, just for folks who are maybe unfamiliar or not sure of the full breadth of your mission. And I know there's a few pillars, education being one, healthcare, immigration as well. And I was curious, are there any specific programs that, one, are super impactful in this time that we find ourselves in now, but also in finding, say, maybe alignment with this sort of, maybe a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but less serious donor that you mentioned earlier, because we don't take ourselves too seriously out here in crypto. But also speaking, towards the mission of what you're working on and what's really timely for y'all.
Yeah, so you touched on some of the big buckets, and I guess I can relate to them personally, right? So, education is obviously, especially higher education, is increasingly expensive and hard to come by. So, at the foundation, we have a scholarship program, and we invite basically high school students to apply for scholarships, and we try to do the best that we can to support them. And that's an essay process, and it's also an opportunity for us to educate young people who Mother Cabrini is. They can write some essays and apply for a scholarship. So we think supporting kids, especially in this time when college education is expensive as it is. I've got kids in college. I know what those bills look like. So I think it's a great opportunity to connect with folks. Institutionally, we also have a all-girls high school in New Orleans that we support, the Missionary Sisters Cabrini High School down in New Orleans. And so it's important to support them too, and so that's part of our education pillar. It's not only institutions that we manage and maintain, but also trying to have a broader outreach and support other kids that need help. Healthcare is a big issue. We do have a connection with a health system in Australia, of all places, that we partner with and do some things around the world. We also have some health clinics in Guatemala and in Africa that we support, which is all super important. But we've also gotten involved in mental health here in the United States, in New York. Coming out of COVID, I think mental health awareness became a lot more, relevant than perhaps it had 10 years ago. And so we're involved in some studies and trying to do some direct help counseling to young people and just people in general that need some support in that area. The third one's immigration. You can't really turn on your TV without seeing a story on immigration. Mother Cabrini is the patron saint of immigration. So we've got counseling services to help people that are going through the process, and we're grateful to be able to do that. So I guess the point is, I look at those three buckets as incredibly timely and incredibly relevant to just everybody. So you don't have to be just a crypto person. You could be, just a guy walking down the street or a woman walking down the street who's impacted by one of these issues. And so I think that's what works for us. So we're hoping that people will come on board and support us and keep the mission going, keep it alive.
Yeah, and that's great. I think at the end of the day, with the foundation getting some new modern ways to give, and the way people want to give being more digitally and more online, just sounds like a great way to spread the mission, get more people involved, and when that moment of generosity strikes, for all of those reasons that you outlined. What a great way to know that, there's another channel for people to come into the Cabrini community and advance the mission forward. And certainly think that, Mother Cabrini would certainly, appreciate that as well. But I guess for the mission, 2020, rest of 25, 26, what can you tell folks about what might be coming down the pike? And for people that want to learn more about Cabrini Mission Foundation, where can they go to learn more about you guys?
I think this really is the chapter. I mean, we talk about what the next chapter is. I think we've just really opened the book on this chapter. So, I'm excited to continue to explore what we can do in crypto. We've certainly not mastered it. We certainly haven't reached all the audiences that we hope to. We certainly haven't convinced everybody that to make the switch over to digital. But, we're certainly trying. We're trying to move in that direction. We're pretty active on social media. Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. We've got a daily post on there. Cabrini Mission Foundation is just Google Cabrini Mission Foundation, or just go to your favorite social media page, and you'll find us. We're not hiding by any way. And again, I think what we're just going to continue to do is try to engage people in every way we can. Wherever they're hiding, we're going to try to turn over that leaf and identify ourselves and tell them to come hang out with us.
Fantastic. I love it. Well, we'll make sure to put all the relevant links in the show notes. If there are links that we can share out to the simulcast, we'll try to include that to the extent that we can. But we'd love to just make sure that we have everything out there if people want to get involved and send some of those donations your way. Great to know that you've started to scratch the surface in the crypto community. We're certainly excited about helping you broaden that mission and take it to more folks wherever they might be in whichever corners of the internet. But Pietro, I guess I'll give you the last word here, and if you want to take us out.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Nick. I guess the last thing I would like to do is really, I didn't have any final questions, but maybe I was just curious if we missed anything, or if there's anything, Chris, that you thought was relevant, topical coming up. Obviously, we have this big gala. We have, quite a bit on the itinerary for you guys coming up. But was there anything that maybe we missed, or things that are coming up that you can give us a sneak peek on? But wanted to give you the floor here to kind of let us know what's going on.
I appreciate it. An open mic on a podcast. What could be more inviting? No, I appreciate this opportunity. To be honest, I don't do a whole lot of this, so I think we've touched on what we need to touch on. I welcome people to look us up online, CabriniMissionFoundation.org. There's ways to volunteer. There's ways to donate. There's ways to partner. There's ways to remember a loved one. There's ways to learn more about Mother Cabrini. So we'd invite people to, explore their mission. We say when people donate to us, they become a missionary. They join us on mission. So I welcome people to join us on mission and carry this legacy forward.
Beautiful words. Beautiful words to close this out. That is going to be a wrap. Thank you again to Chris for joining us. And this has been another episode of This Week in Crypto Philanthropy. We will see you all next week.